This tutorial is for 4th grade, Module 6, Lesson 9. In this lesson, we're going to use tape diagrams to help us compare decimal lengths. The directions say express the lengths of the shaded parts in decimal form. Write a sentence that compares the two lengths. We'll use the expression shorter than or longer than. So if we look at our first tape diagram, it is showing us 1 meter. It has been divided into 10 sections, so each section would be 1/10. So I have 1/10, another tenth, and a third tenth that's shaded in. To write 3/10 as a decimal, we would write 0, decimal point 3. In the second tape diagram, I have 1/10, another tenth, and then the next tenth has been divided into hundredths. Of those hundredths, 7 have been shaded in. So as a decimal, we would say that we have 2/10 and 7/100. Now we have to write a statement comparing the two decimals. Well, you can see that the 3/10 takes up more of the tape diagram than the 27/100, or 2/10 and 7/100. So we'll say that 3/10 is longer than 27/100. Now another way to look at this is the 3/10 could also be considered 30/100 because each tenth is equal to 10/100. So I can take that statement and I can rewrite it as 30/100 is longer than 27/100, which might make a little more sense. Either way is correct though. 3/10 is longer than 27/100, or 30/100 is longer than 27/100. And you can see again on the tape diagram how that takes up more space than the 27/100. Here's another example. In my top tape, I have 1/10, a second tenth, and a third tenth. And then the next tenth was divided into hundredths, and in there I have 5/100 that are shaded. So altogether I have 3/10 and 5/100. I could also name that as 35/100 since each tenth is the same as 10/100. In the second tape I have 1/10, a second tenth, a third tenth, and a fourth tenth. So I have 4/10. I can also express that as 40/100, or in decimal form 0.40, because again each tenth is the same as 10/100, so altogether that would be 40/100. Now to write our comparison statement, I'll say that 35/100 is shorter than 4/10 because you can see that it does not fill in as much of the whole tape diagram as 4/10 would. You could also state it as 35/100 is shorter than 40/100 because 4/10 is the same thing as 40/100. So either answer would be correct. In the next section I have some fruits and vegetables on scales, and it says to examine the mass of each item as shown on the kilogram scales. Put an X over the items that are heavier than the avocado. Well, the avocado is on the first scale and it is 2/10. If I look at the apple weighs 1/10 and 2/100. That's less than 2/10, so I would not put an X on that one. Moving to the bananas weigh 6/10 of a kilogram. That's more than 2 kilograms, so we'll put an X over the bananas. And the last one is a potato, and it weighs 6/10 and 1/100 of a kilogram. And again, because of that 6/10 being more than the 2/10, we'll put an X over the potato because it is heavier than the avocado. In the next section, I have 6 cylinders, each filled partially with water. I'm going to transfer their measurements onto a chart so we can do some comparison. So I've transferred the measurements onto this chart. For example, cylinder A was 6/10 and 0 hundredths of a liter, or we could refer to that as 60 hundredths. Another example, cylinder D was 9/10 and 7 hundredths, or we could say it is 97 hundredths of a liter. Now let's look at the comparisons below. The first one says we're going to compare the 9/10 liter with the 6/10 liter. So that would be comparing cylinders C and A. C is 9/10, A is 6/10. Well, 9/10 is more than 6/10, so we'll use the greater than sign. In the next one, we're comparing the cylinder that had 48 hundredths to the cylinder with the 6 liters. So the 48 hundredths was cylinder F, and we're comparing that to cylinder A. Now F has 4/10 of a liter and 8 hundredths, but A has 6/10. That means altogether A has more water because 6/10 is the same as 60 hundredths. 60 hundredths would be more than 48 hundredths. So 48 hundredths of a liter is less than 6/10 of a liter, or 60 hundredths of a liter. And my last question shows 3/10 of the liter, that would be cylinder B, compared to 19 hundredths of a liter, which would be cylinder E. Cylinder B has 3/10, and we're comparing that to 1/10 in cylinder E. Cylinder E also has 9 hundredths, so we can call that 19 hundredths compared to cylinder B, which would be 30 hundredths. 30 hundredths, which I could write like this, would be more than 19 hundredths, so we would use the greater than symbol there.